on Monday, and I'm so excited to talk to you. And the topic that I want to talk to you today about is how we continue dragging ourselves to the past when actually we want to go and build the future. And I will be sharing some of the examples from my clients and my own example because they're so similar and what can be done about it. Right. So, and I will explain to you also what I mean by dragging ourselves to the past. So, the way that I see is this is I see it more and more lately. Maybe I'm paying more attention to it, but there is this story that we keep telling ourselves that, for instance, some of my humanitarians want to create families in addition to having their amazing careers and work achievements. And when they do that, I see that there is a very common story that keeps happening among some of them, and especially women, I would say. And this story is something like this: is that I cannot build a relationship because the last one was lacking commitment, and the last one, the person didn't want the same things that I wanted. I have a trauma response. I couldn't make this relationship work because I was oversharing. I was giving too much. I was doing too much of the things. I was traveling all the time to see him instead of trying to find the balance. I basically lost myself. So this is what I see that some of my humanitarians are saying is the reason why we can't build now another relationship, right? So another one is I feel damaged, or no one will really understand my lifestyle, hopping from one country to another. So that's why um, basically we keep telling ourselves that the past has been this way, and therefore there's a big likelihood that the future will be the same, and therefore I'm not going for it. Right. So that's one way of saying it. Another way that we're really saying is that we cannot really be trusted with the next relationship because of our trauma response, because of our this and that qualities. So, in other words, I really see that we are somehow so prone to like getting ourselves to the past or dragging ourselves to the past. This is the only way I can describe it. And robbing ourselves of the trust, or we keep telling ourselves that we don't deserve it. We're not. We don't. We cannot be trusted, right? So when we say I feel damaged, or when we say I have trauma response, excuse me, somehow we are sending ourselves this message that therefore I can't really build that relationship next time. Now, if this is you, here are the things that I would love for you to consider working on. And I will tell you my story of how I have done it and how that has worked for me. Now, if you keep telling yourself that you have trauma response, first understand what that means, but also understand what is your story around that trauma that you had from the past. Right. So, for instance, in this client's example, she observed her parents getting divorced when she was younger, as I understand, and therefore she recalls a lot of her stories, and therefore she feels like maybe I'm not really going to make it work in my relationship, right? That's might be one of the interpretations she received from that experience. Now, whatever the experience was of the past, how do we want that to influence our lives currently is the question we want to answer, right? It doesn't mean, of course, that we shouldn't be going and treating our trauma and working with specialists. Absolutely. If you feel like to do that, please go and do that. But the fundamental question that I would love for you to consider is what do you make that past mean now in your current life? Because if you keep thinking that I have trauma response, probably you keep indicating to yourself that that means you're not ready for the next relationship. That means that you can't really do the next relationship, or that means that you need to delay something. If that's what you mean by trauma response, then get curious as to, is that really how do you want to go moving forward? Right? Is that really what you're saying to yourself? What are you saying to yourself when you say, I have trauma response? Right? And what do you want that past to mean about you now? Whatever the things that you have experienced in the past, do you want them to influence how you move forward, making the future, or you don't? And that is up to you, how you decided, how you see it, how you decide to move forward, and in the meantime also processing all of the past the way that you seem most useful for you. The other one is, if you keep telling yourself I'm damaged, again, get curious, what does that mean? What does that mean that we're damaged? Right? So, what are we actually mean by feeling like we're damaged? Because the way that I have done that to myself, the way that I have interpreted back in the day, I think it was basically me saying to myself, I don't deserve it. This is, I think, what I was telling myself at the time. And then I got curious as to, why do I believe that I don't deserve it? Right? Why I'm making whatever the damage mean that I don't deserve it. What does that even deserving mean? So I was really like questioning my own stories around my own life, and then deciding, do I want that story to be part of my life moving forward or not? If I don't want that story, what the other story I want to go by? Right? Because the way that I have done my work a lot around this topic of relationships and building relationships is that um, I had a lot of story that I'm not capable of making relationships work because of the past with my parents. I was always afraid that if I start a relationship, it will go bad because it will involve violence, and I don't want to be around people who are violent. So somehow these are the imaginations I had, right? So um, when I also realized that yes, I have a lot of trauma from the past, from my childhood. I'm still to work on those, but it doesn't stop me from creating the relationships I want. How can I still create the relationships I want, knowing what has happened in the past, but also learning from them and saying that it does not stop me from creating or um, developing my abilities to create relationships, loving relationships I want, right? So that's why I really want to encourage anyone who's in this space of, oh, I can't really create the next relationship because the last one was this, because of my past, because of this, because of that. Get curious as to, why do you believe those will stop you from creating the next relationship the way you want to, right? If you decide that they will influence you, they will. But if you decide that now you're going to create a new relationship in the way that you like, then you can also get curious as to, how can you build trust within yourself with the other person to create the relationship that you're desiring, and spending more time and curiosity in that space, and a bit rewriting the history that you have until now thought that's the only way, or that's this way, right? So that's why I really would love for you to think about, okay, what do I mean when I say I have trauma response? Um, how do I feel when I say that I have trauma response, right? So if I say I have trauma response, am I really feeling like going forward and building the relationships that I want? or am I just stopping myself? Do I want to stop myself, or I want to work on those trauma and also work on relationships at the same time? What is your decision on that? Right? The same goes for I am someone who keep oversharing, and that's why I couldn't build my relationships in the past. What does that oversharing mean? Is that like maybe you're misinterpreting you being truly you, and then the other person not being able to handle it, and then therefore you interpreting that, oh, that means I must have overshared, now I can't be myself? Just be careful and ask yourself, what does that oversharing means? And when you're going to the next relationship, how do you want to build that relationship, right? But do you really want to build that relationship from, oh, I need to be cautious here, I need to be cautious there, because otherwise they will leave me? Or do you want to build the relationships from truly being you, and then trusting the other person likes and accepts and wants to be with that truly you, or some version of you? So these are the things that you can think about. The other thing that we talked about the damaged, right? So if we feel like we're damaged, or we feel like we are not deserving, again, why do we continue having that story? What do we want to what do we want with that story, right? What is the purpose of keep telling ourselves that story? And how does that story influence our current life? And the other question is, do we want that story to influence our current life, or the life that we're building? Or we want a different story, and what that different story could look like. And then use that, like that momentum that you have currently after having realized all of these answers to your own, to these questions, or to your other own questions. Have your answers to them and make decision as to, okay, these have been the stories up until now. They have led me to this current results that I have. And if I don't want these results, let's say, then how do I want to keep moving forward? What are the new stories I want to tell myself as of now? And if you have difficulty creating new stories, think of yourself in other areas of your life. For instance, a lot of my clients are very successful in their work life, and they are so confident. They know what they're doing. They know how they're doing. They've been in this for some time. So therefore, they really feel good about themselves in that work environment. Then ask yourself, how can you expand that and bring that personality to your to building your love relationship, right? In the sense of feeling good about yourself, feeling confident about yourself, feeling trusting about yourself, trusting that you are able to do um, this and this. You are able to create such relationships, trusting that you know what you're doing, or you know how to um, explore these avenues of new ways of building relationships, right? You can always bring those qualities to your personal life if you wanted to. And what is the goal that really I would love for you to consider is, no matter what the past is, you can always create the relationships as of now in the way that you want to. Start exploring how that could look like. Start exploring who you want to be in that relationship, how you want to build that relationship, how you want to show up in that relationship, and start deciding and being that in that relationship. Start from there. Because if we keep being in this stories of trauma response, if we keep being in the the stories of oh, I couldn't build the relationship because I was oversharing, or because I'm damaged, or because I am having this lifestyle that no one understands, then we will unlikely to create relationships that we want, because we will always be having reasons to explain away why we can't create new relationships the way we want to, right? And at least for me, I have realized at some point that I don't want to be explaining away why I can't live the life that I want to. I just told myself, like, I don't want to keep explaining away why I can't live my life the way I want to, right? Because in the past, I used to explain, oh, it's because of me being adopted, or because my parents or my childhood was a violent childhood, or because of this, because of that. And at some point, I thought, at least for myself, I thought it's enough already, because I don't want to repeat the same things that I had from my parents. I didn't want to repeat the lives of my parents. I didn't want to repeat the lives of my biological parents. I wanted to create my own life. And in order to do that, I don't need to rely on the past. I don't really need to rely on those of other people's experiences from the past, because it was their experience, yes, unfortunate, but I want to try my best to create my own relationship. And I want to explore how that is from a clean slate, from a place of trusting myself, from a place of trusting the other person, that we can create the relationship that we both want. And how would that go? If I leave my trauma response story, my damage story in the past. And I would love for you to explore. Again, please don't hear me wrong by me, like, don't hear me wrong in the sense of me saying that don't work on those topics that you have, but while working on those topics, also explore that story of you having this description of yourself. Because of this, you can't create this relationship. Question if that's true. Question if that's really the reason why you are not able to create relationship, or how would that look like if you remove that story, or if you focused on building your relationship from the 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 truly you, who can, like, start exploring new ways to create relationships, right? How would that look like? And for that to happen, we need really to look at our opinions of ourselves, our opinions about our abilities to create these relationships, our trust level of ourselves, of the other person, to create these relationships. And if we can focus on that, if we can work on that, then creating relationships will be not as hard as we imagine. It will be very doable. And I have done it, and I have seen many of my other clients doing it. And I would love for you to do that too. So, my message here really is, please don't stop yourself from creating amazing relationships because of some stories that you haven't really questioned. So, if you want to, like, get clear on your stories and decide what to do with those stories so that you can create the relationship you want, then absolutely come over to coach with me. So, my dears, have a beautiful week. I'll speak to you very soon.